to Stonehenge and areas of standing stones and things, I think it's a much more difficult, at this point, there doesn't seem to be a lot of evidence to sacrifice happening at these stones. I think that they were there. My personal belief is, after having seen a few of the sites, I've been to a lot of them, but I've been to a couple, is the feeling that I pick up there is that they are indeed more ritualistic in the terms of bringing in the seasons, bringing in the sun. Especially the sun was a very, very important entity in our ancestors' lives. Doesn't matter where you lived on the planet, right? You needed the sun, unless you were in a very hot climate. And then you had the opposite. And a lot of the hot climates, even though Egypt, though, was, highly, highly revering the sun, but they lived beside the Nile. So they had a constant source of water. But when you look at some sites that are more dry year round and very hot, they tend to go in a direction of, more water as a vital, vital thing. But it makes sense. It depends on where you are. And of course, living in the Northern Hemisphere, in places like the UK or Scandinavia, sun is at a premium.
Yeah. Well, just look at what happens today in our age.
Yes.
At Stonehenge. You've got the gatherings that take place at the summer solstice, the winter solstice.
That's right.
It's a huge event that still takes place.
Yeah, and again too, right? I mean, even if we're going to those sites today and we're doing a paranormal investigation, or we're going there to see what we can pick up on or what we can feel. I mean, millions of people have passed through these sites now. So it's really, really hard to say what energy you're picking up. What energy are you receiving on these sites? What are you feeling? Is it ancient energy, or is it the accumulative energies of millions of people passing through these sites, right? So for me, I feel like I should be able to know the difference. But there's some times when, I'm on a site that I honestly can't tell what I'm picking up. I can't tell if I'm picking up ancient energy or residual energy that, has accumulated over many years. And I mean, places like these standing stones or these monoliths, they're living, breathing entities unto themselves. Rock maybe doesn't breathe, but it's still created by the earth, and it still contains energy, and it still retains energy and absorbs energy, as does the earth all around it, or the trees. And so for me, it's often the question, what exactly would I or am I picking up when I'm at these sites?
You want to talk about the energy. That's an interesting point, because that brings me sort of to my next theory of why these sites might be haunted. And there's something called ley lines.
Yes.
That that are it's a natural line of magnetic energy that just crisscross the earth. And it's interesting that there's a new theory about these ley lines, that they become sort of I guess you could call it a supernatural roadway that spirits can use to travel. And it's very interesting that what I was looking up is that many of these sites that we're talking about, and throughout the world, are sitting right on top of a ley line. And some of them are so precise that, for example, there's a number of sites all across Europe And you can take a ruler and you can draw a straight line that goes through every single one of those sites. So it's the whoever created all these sites had some kind of a knowledge
Well, but here's
that,
the thing. I'm not sure they
because
had
that there's no way that that's coincidence that I can look at a map and have all these sites marked on it that, well,
no,
not
but again,
I would mark, and
well,
draw a straight line that goes through every single one precisely.
well, it does and it doesn't, because I actually did a show on this, and some of them do line up and some of them don't line up at all. But here's the thing too, right? Our Earth rotates on an axis and it changes. That axis shifts. So if we were to look at the time period in which some of the sites that don't align, perhaps at that time did align, but don't align today, because the axis that we're on is no longer the same as it was 10,000 years ago or 8,000 years ago,
That
right?
makes sense.
We're
Yeah.
shifting. Our magnetic pole is actually completely shifted from what it was. So this is a natural thing with the Earth. This is not, it's happened in previous history, that the axis does shift. But at the same time, I find it interesting because ley lines are something too that they've discovered, these magnetic trails that birds use for migration.
Mm-hmm.
Birds are also following these ley lines, these magnetic lines, to migrate back and forth as well. So that's kind of a really interesting thing. I think naturally we pick up on this energy. I have a terrible time with magnets. Magnets and I are not good. Those bracelets.
Oh, the bracelets. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
cannot wear those. They actually make me want to pass out. They really mess with my magnetic field, which is wonky to begin. I can erase LED watches in a matter of an hour or two on my wrist. It will go completely blank.
Wow.
So yeah, but me and magnets. So and that's the other thing too. Like for myself, because dowsing rods are based on that theory of
That's
magnetic
right.
pull.
Yeah.
So when I hold a set of dowsing rods, it's just ridiculous what happens. The left one starts madly spinning counterclockwise, no matter what I do. The left and the right one will just veer way off, and there is no control on dowsing rods for me at all. You put them in my hand and they just start doing the nuttiest things. So what does that mean? I don't know. It means I can't use dowsing rods. But again, there is definitely some magnetic pull in this earth. And yes. And so, did our ancient ancestors know about these ley lines? I don't think that they knew about them consciously, but I think that subconsciously, on a vibrational level, they could certainly feel that energy in those locations, which is why, as human beings, we choose locations that vibrate with us, right? It's even when you purchase a house, you could look at 100 houses and not one of them would work for you. And then suddenly
you find that one house. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so there's something about the property itself, something about the location that makes you feel good, or it resonates with you. And so there's something to be said about that. And I think a lot of these ancient sites were set up in the same way. I think that they were set up on these sites that had this intrinsic pull to, our ancestors, or, ancient people, that there was something about these sites that spoke to them. And the fact that they just happen to now, lie on sort of the modern invention of ley lines. And I'm not saying that it's a modern invention in the terms of, we invented it, but whoever discovered it, perhaps